Dr. Sean Hubbard here. Thank you for joining me for this online course, Motivational Interviewing for Healthcare Providers. It is with great pleasure and honor to provide this online course for you. I've been thinking about this subject for quite a long time. For the whole 20 years that I've been in medical practice, and even before, I have been wondering and asking the question, what is the most effective way to talk to patients? I mean, we take courses in biology and physics and chemistry and math, and then we go to medical school. But then we never really learn the language of healthcare, the language of taking care of patients and helping them get from where they are to where they want to go. And that's what motivational interviewing is about. So I'm very happy to have such a discussion. Now, this course itself will not be an exhaustive course. We'll go into some depth in terms of the principles and postures, the very spirit of motivational interviewing. Then we'll talk some about the critical practices of motivational interviewing. There are some courses, some conferences that are tailored all around motivational interviewing, and you can spend an entire weekend or even an entire week going over some of the details of motivational interviewing. Now, we're not going to compress all that in the next hour, but when you leave this course, you're going to become a completely different healthcare practitioner because you're going to have a depth of awareness that you didn't have before. So I'm happy to be the facilitator of that. So without further ado, why don't we dig deep into motivational interviewing? I first started thinking about motivational interviewing in practice during about my second or third year as a neurologist. I had admitted a gentleman named Leroy. He was in his 50s, an African-American man who came in complaining of unilateral weakness that started abruptly on the right side. It had been going on for a couple of days. We admitted him through the emergency department. We asked him to undergo an MRI of the brain, and don't you know that deep in the white matter on the left side, he did have a stroke. We investigated further. We asked Leroy to undergo a carotid ultrasound. We followed that up and confirmed it with a CTA of the neck vessels, and this indeed confirmed that Leroy's carotid artery on the left side was critically blocked and blocking the blood flow going to his brain, and that was likely causing his right hand weakness. Now, it was clear that we needed to undo that blockage. I asked one of my surgeon colleagues if he would help in performing a carotid endarterectomy. He was concerned, though, because to do a carotid endarterectomy for a patient who just recently, over the past 24 hours, had a stroke is kind of risky. I mean, the area is bruised, and so if we open up this artery with massive blood flow there, the concern is that he may have bleeding. We talked about the risks and then the benefits. Obviously, if we didn't do something, he was going to have a bigger stroke anyway. Well, shortened story, Leroy did undergo the carotid endarterectomy, and he did wonderfully. After that, we had some discussion about what are we going to do to prevent atherosclerosis. I told Leroy the good news, that when we looked at all of the risk factors for plaque development, like blood pressure, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, advanced age, history of heart disease, he didn't have any of these, and he had one risk factor, and that was tobacco exposure. So I expressed this to Leroy as good news, what I thought was good news. And Leroy didn't seem to cheer at this. Instead, he looked up at me and he replied, that's going to be a problem. And I thought maybe we had some misunderstanding. You know, what do you mean that's going to be a problem? You have one risk factor, and if we can just get rid of that, then we're good to go for the future. But Leroy, he still didn't cheer, and in fact, he returned to me and he said, you know, it's not that I don't want to stop smoking. I do want to stop smoking. I need to stop smoking. And I don't know why I can't stop smoking. I could tell when I looked at him that he felt kind of impotent in his issue, in his challenge. He felt like, he seemed to feel that he didn't know really what to do. He seemed stuck. And as his doctor, I felt stuck also. I thought about Leroy for that day and then later on that year. And for a couple of years, it changed how I felt about my role as a physician. And I felt I needed to figure what is that we can do? What kind of discussion can we have to help people get ready for a life and for a health that they so desire? And later, I started to understand that Leroy is really every man, every woman, every child. We all have a health status that we would like to improve. It might be for some getting rid of something. It might be for some of us moving into a direction that we so desire. But we all have this interest of improving our health status in one way or another. And so it's really kind of the human condition. Leroy is every man, woman, boy, and girl. Maybe what we can do as healthcare practitioners is helping people, helping each other, and helping our patients to get from where we are to where we want to be. I mean, healthcare practitioners play a huge role because we see people when they have challenges, and we are the ones who can and who will and who do have the conversations at these junctures. And so if we can help people get increasingly ready, well, then this is a wonderful opportunity, and that's what motivational interviewing is all about. So motivational interviewing was developed by Doctors William Miller and Stephen Rolnick. These were two psychologists who in the 70s and early 80s had their own Leroy moments, if you will. But they were two standouts in their field with regard to helping patients to get from where they were to where they wanted to be. They were able to help people move forward. And when they studied the anatomy of the conversations and the counseling that they were having, and then they looked at the anatomy and organized these conversations and the elements of those conversations, they saw that there was a pattern here, and they called that entire pattern motivational interviewing. So as motivational interviewers, what we'll be doing is helping people to realize and align with their intrinsic strengths, because intrinsically what can be found is a person's source for healing and a source for doing well, the actual power for doing well. And so as healthcare professionals, that's what we'll be focused on the most moving forward. Motivational interviewing is a collaborative and conversational approach for helping patients to find their own intrinsic strength and capacity for moving from where they are to where they want to go. One of the intrinsic strengths that people have, that we all have, is our own desire. And so it is important to engage patients on their own desire. We've all been sitting in front of patients and then make recommendations, and then we can even sound judgmental. But patients have to have their own reasons why they want to move forward. And it's generally not going to be reasons that we have put upon them. Change is difficult sometimes, even in the face of having to lose something. Sometimes we're on the verge of losing our life, or losing a social or marital relationship, or even losing a job. I mean, change is difficult when it boils right down to it. Just simply because we're not ready to change. We're having what's called as ambivalence. We're experiencing ambivalence. Ambivalence essentially means when we are on the verge of change, and we have one set of information, we have another set of information, and we have mixed feelings between those, or even between many. This is ambivalence. I mean, who amongst us doesn't sometimes think about the life I have versus the life I want to have? I mean, most of us experience ambivalence. It's really a very common aspect of daily living for all of us. When we're younger, we have to make decisions about when we're going to do homework, whether we're going to go to college, if we'll become engaged, if we'll marry, where we'll move. And then it even changes as we move forward and go to later in life, when we have to think about when we're going to retire, if we're going to retire, when we'll give up our independence and accept more help. Ambivalence is a lifelong issue. Ambivalence is invariably present, and so you can really keep your eyes open for that. So next time you're with patients, keep your eyes open for what's called maintain talk. If during our ambivalence, when we're having mixed feelings, if we have a tendency for maintaining and continuing the behavior and the performance that we are indeed engaging, many times there's a certain language that goes with that, and this is referred to as maintain language. Now, sometimes our patients will say, well, why should I give up tobacco or alcohol? I know a guy who was like 99 years old. He drank every day since he was 15. And so this is, you'll recognize this is maintain language, because in other words, what we're saying is that, why change? I'll just continue doing what I'm doing. We have these conversations with patients, and essentially the conversation we are having, again, is the life that patients have versus the life that they can have. Now, most of the times we talk to patients in this manner, we spend a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of energy talking about the life that they've had and the life that they currently have. I mean, we ask them about their past health conditions, medications that they are taking, is the life they have, allergies. If we gave them medicines, would they have an allergic reaction? We're talking about the past, and also what's going on right now, their social history. We ask them about their previous surgery. So we don't really spend much time talking about the life that they can have. So my recommendation at this time is that when we are taking a social history, ask patients what they do for fun. Ask patients what do they really enjoy. And this is a social history. So let's ask them who they do those things with, an actual social history. When we ask patients these very important questions about what they enjoy and who they do those things that they enjoy with, what we get is, in a sense, what they really live for and why they're going to take our medications and make the adjustments that we're going to recommend ultimately. So everybody has some things that they enjoy doing more than others. So when we ask patients to consider what they enjoy and who they enjoy those things with, what we're actually asking them is to consider their intrinsic strengths. So we're actually accessing their intrinsic strengths. Our autonomy, our sense of autonomy, our sense of relatedness, and our interest in competence. We all have this. Autonomy is the idea that we all want to be able to control and have some significant influence over the course of our lives. Relatedness has to do with the idea that we all have an interest in identifying with and relating to others around us, and even some people that are like us in other places. And then finally, competence is another intrinsic strength that we have. We all like to be masterful in our own environment, at work as well as at home and with our friends. Autonomy, relatedness, and competence, and things that we really enjoy doing, and of course the people that we enjoy doing them with, they all represent intrinsic strengths that we can help people to leverage to get over our own ambivalence, their own ambivalence, to achieve the goals they desire. Throughout the first part of our course, we've been talking about ambivalence. We've talked about some of the challenges that ambivalence places, and we've just started to talk about how to overcome those challenges by helping patients to see their own and access and make reference to their own intrinsic strengths. And what we are doing is conversationally making reference to our intrinsic strengths. As we move forward into the second part of motivational interviewing for healthcare providers, we'll talk more about the principles and the postures. Congratulations for completing part 1.